fine.
I don't know about this one, but okay, we're doing it. Head first, diving.
Monotasking and revenge procrastination. These are not planned topics. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to learn a little bit about revenge procrastination today all together because I'm not an expert on revenge procrastination. It just so happened before Charity and I started talking, or before we went live, she was telling me about how a client was talking about revenge procrastination, and she started looking up. Thought it was really interesting. So we're going to dive into that together, which will be fun. But we're also going to talk about monotasking, which is single tasking, and how that can benefit you and improve a bunch of things like your digestion, your focus, your motivation, and so on and so forth. But as always, if you guys are here, whether you're live or on recording, drop a comment below, say hello, let us know you're here. If you like these style of videos, because when you comment or post, it is telling us do more. And if you don't comment and post, that's telling us do less. And that's fine. We'll just find something else to do. So we're going to put this into place. I'm going to say we're live. Come say hey to Coach Charity. Let's see, and let's go.
Send me your favorite emoji.
Send your favorite emoji. That's cute.
Your favorite emoji.
I'm gonna stand up for this one. We're gonna hype this up. Gonna
be good.
Raise the heavens. I love this desk. Isn't that so cool? All right. So let's. Which one do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about monotasking, or you want to talk about revenge procrastination? I feel like the latter is like a deep hole that we're gonna like really be exploring for the first time. So maybe the first.
Okay, whichever one is fine with me. I don't know much about revenge procrastination, so I literally just heard about this for the first time in my life like 20 minutes ago. So
all right, cool. Let's talk about monotasking. So right before this call, you had mentioned to me one of your clients. Who was it specifically? If you don't mind asking.
It's Miss Amy.
Amy, perfect. So Amy has been experiencing just in her first week some benefits from monotasking or single tasking. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. No, mostly it was slowing down to eat, because sometimes we don't pay attention to what we're shoveling into our mouths, especially if we feel like we're in a hurry. And then we don't realize when we're hungry, because it takes about 20 minutes, for your belly to tell your brain to stop. And then that idea of putting your fork down, just focusing on the one task at hand, and just enjoying the things that you're eating a little bit more. And then maybe you won't be as hungry and you'll feel satiated.
I do feel like, we got some highs in the comments too, really quick. We got I got to refresh the page. Rebecca, what's up? I see some hays. I like it. Good to see you guys. Eden says, hey, as well. Good to see you guys. Yeah, it's so interesting. I feel like this is like, that scratches the surface on the psychology of weight loss, right? Because there is nothing, there actually is something physiological happening, but you're not consuming less calories, or how can I say this? It's not that the food you're eating is less caloric. It's the fact that you're just like not even wanting as many calories just simply by slowing down. It's interesting. One of my, I don't want to call it like a mantra, but one of my big focuses, personal goal for the year, it sounds so funny, but it's to do less. My whole life for the last 15, 16 years has been, I want to conquer. I want to do more. I want to help more people. I want to have a bigger impact. I want to be able to be a better dad, a better husband. I want to have a better six pack. I want to be able to whatever. And this is like the first year that I'm slowing down and focusing on less. And it's something really crazy is actually happening. And I don't want this to be about me, but here we are. But just really quick, subjectively, things feel slow. So like as the subjects, kind of things feel like day to day, like a little boring here and there, but objectively, I'm accomplishing more. And that's really weird.
It is counterintuitive, but it is fantastic. Yeah. There's a whole book series on that, do less and be more and stuff. So, but I love that you're implementing it for sure. And she even noticed just even taking that pause to be like, am I actually hungry? What do I really want right now? Is this an emotional moment? Am I thirsty? Am I tired? But taking that pause, which is a slowdown, right, has been just huge for her. And her benefits have been more energy, which seems counterintuitive, right? Like I'm slowing down, but I have more energy. What? Yes.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of energy, it's funny. I had a client of mine, this is going way back to my first gym, and he said to me, hey, how do I wake up with more motivation in the morning? How do I wake up with more energy to get out of bed?
Mhm.
And again, it's counterintuitive, I believe, where it's like and I'll talk about that in a second, but to your point, it's like we do less, we have more energy to a degree. There's obviously two sides to that coin. The first coin, the first part, I do feel like is really mental. We have a lot of mental tabs open in our brain at all times. So it's like when we close those tabs, we're regaining mental RAM. This mental RAM can now be used towards something else, meaning we have now higher motivation or higher energy. There is something to be said too, though, on the other side. I think the reason that when we slow down, I will say this too, I think there's a negative connotation with being tired. Yes, chronically, we want, good energy, high energy, like in the macro. But in the micro, it's actually good. It's okay to feel tired. For example, if it's 2 hours before you normally go to bed, you should feel tired.
Right.
If you aren't, your anxiety is probably high. What is anxiety? Anxiety is just a heightened state of you want to get things done. You have to, there's fear, there's something that's coming after you. You have to go solve this thing.
Right.
We don't want to feel that before bed, right? I mean, hopefully you don't feel it all the time anyway. But anyway, I'm blabbering a little bit. We have Karen here as well. Hello, good to see you.
And I think it's too energy, like motivation comes in waves, just like everything in life is cyclical and stuff. So I think if you have this expectation that you're always supposed to be like level 10 and 11 all the time, that's not sustainable. And even throughout your day, it ebbs and flows, which that's okay. Sometimes that's your body's way of saying it's time to switch tasks. It's time to get a drink of water. It's time to go to the bathroom. So those natural breaks.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because it's like that reminds me of like the hedonic treadmill. And, I remember in my, this is in regards specifically to happiness, but like this could be around like motivation too. Cause like if we're happy, we're motivated, whatever. But like I remember my early 20s from 20 to 26, I focused so heavily on like, I want to be on all the time. How do I be on all the time? And, that's when I started taking advantage of I almost said recreational drugs, but like caffeine is what I'm talking about. I did not use cocaine in my early 20s. I mean, if you did, that's fine, whatever. Probably don't want to keep using it, but I've never used it myself. But I was heavily dosing caffeine to the point where like, I remember there were some days I was taking like 400 or 500 milligrams of caffeine through the day so that I could stay top performing. But then guess what happens? The last day, you crash.
Right.
And like, man, I was just toast. And I don't have days like that anymore, which is great. But to your point, it's like, yeah, if you go above baseline and you're like super motivated and super happy, we can expect there's going to be a dip below, and that's okay. Right. We don't have to be high all the time. It wouldn't make sense. If you were high all the time, that would just become your new baseline.
Right.
And now you're not high. Now you're just baseline. So it's the lows in life, and I'm not saying like deep spiraling depression, but I'm saying like just being, being on your couch and being bored, like that's a low, and that's okay. It's okay to have those lows. I think Charity, you remind me of that all the time.
Yeah, having those dips and stuff. It's part of the cycle and part of the process. You have valleys and mountains. We're not supposed to stay straight all the time, or I don't think we're made like that. We get bored.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I guess we're 9 minutes in and I've totally already talked about 800 different things. Although I will talk about really quick that other person, my last client from my first gym, his name was Matt. Well, his name's still Matt, but back then it was Matt too.
Right.
And he said, hey, how do I be motivated when I wake up in the morning? Well, how do I spring out of bed? And I said, well, do you really want to spring out of bed? And he's like, yes. And I said, okay, there's two ways you can do it. The first way is like what wakes us up in the morning? It's cortisol. So it's a stress hormone that wakes us up. So there's a couple things you can do. You can have natural light hit you in the face, right? That's naturally going to start raising your cortisol because the sun is waking, right? Time to wake up. But it can also be, and that's something physiological, but it can also be something more psychological as a trigger, right? So that's a physiological trigger. This is a psychological trigger where you just have something to be excited about.
Right. Something to look forward to.
And I know this sounds funny, but like a lot of us, and I say a lot of us because this was me. I became a manager of my life, meaning there was nothing I was looking forward to at certain times of my life. And usually that's a signal, right? If you're not, you don't have to be like over the moon, like clap your hands together, get up on the side of the bed and be like, oh boy, it's going to be a great day. Although Zig Ziglar will tell you to do that, which I did when I was younger to try it out. But if you're dreading to get out of the bed in the morning, right? Every emotion's a signal. There's probably something going on. And for him, it was an easy thing. Oh yeah, I hate my job. Now, our clients or this group, that could be possible, but they're probably also loving aspects of their job, right? Or they wouldn't be in it. Being an RN is very rewarding, although very challenging. I had a client a couple months ago, and she was in psych, and man, the stories I'd be hearing from her shift. And then I've had other clients float, and like when they float over to psych, it's a whole thing.
Right.
So we do have a comment coming in really quick too, from Karen. Says that is hard to accept. As nurses, we all feel like we should be moving all the time. Yeah, it's a fallacy, right? I mean, it's super hard to accept. And for me, I have always thought I'm a high performer. I want to be, the example for my clients. I want to be the high energy. I want to be over the moon, and I want to feel it. But the problem with that is, of course, it's not sustainable. And what are we preaching? What is the message on every single one of these calls? It always goes back to sustainability, right? Starting the journey and never stopping again. The difference this time and being able to break through is really simple. It's just never stopping. If you look at the key difference between the people that are maintaining where they are and are happy years later, and the people who chronically go up and down in yo-yo, it is they stop and the other people don't. So you can have that too. But maybe some things need to change.
Yep. Slow and steady wins the race, right? And I love that idea of anticipatory joy. It's a German word, Vorfreude, and like always having something to look forward to. Even if it's just your coffee in the morning or fresh water. It doesn't have to be like life changing, but it will be. It doesn't have to be world changing, I guess. But it can be just an amazing little thing that you just love every morning that you can't wait to wake up to see.
That's nice. Mine's my dog. I like my doggo. Yeah. Even though I so he sleeps he's got like a couple crates in the house, and he's got like one crate in our bedroom with my wife, and then he's got like another small bed of pillows that he likes to sleep in right next to the bed. And the last couple of days though, I've gone over to pet him, and I think it's because it's been cold in the room because we open windows. We like a quick sleep hack. If you want better sleep, lower the temperature of your room. A lot of people are sleeping with like 70 room temperature rooms. Take your room temperature and take it down 64 degrees. Oh, you'll oh man. Oh, I'm telling you right now, we had a couple days I forgot to open the window. It's like our bedroom is like a heat box if we don't open the windows. And man, I woke up I think like 3 or 4 times before I remembered that the window was anyway. It's huge.
Open just a small change, and it saves on your heating bill.
This is true.
And less sickness usually too. That's why they keep ORs colder. Yep.
That's interesting because I feel like that's also contradictory because it's like, wait, doesn't cold equal lower immune system and you're more susceptible? But no, it's interesting.
Yep. Everything you know is not true. Don't question everything, right?
Everything is backward. So, all right, back to monotasking really quick. So just the point of monotasking is to be able to focus on the one thing, feel that one thing, and what else? What's like the main takeaway from monotasking?
Just take your time, slow down, I guess is my bottom line on that one. And just notice what you notice. Like it's an awareness practice too, right?
And the benefit is to be more grounded. The benefit is to be, okay. And what's the benefit of being more grounded?
Your nervous system appreciates it. Your adrenals are going to love it too. Like your whole body is just kind of takes an exhale.
And that relaxes you.
Right. And it helps you make better decisions in the future, right? Because we don't make good decisions when the troll song is mad or scared or stressed. So you need to the best place to make decisions is from a peaceful, empowered state as opposed to a scared state.
Which is tough to get in, especially if we've lived chronically in this fight or flight. Like I think especially being a nurse, I mean, you are kind of in fight or flight for 12 hours. I mean, at least like a heightened state. Cause I mean, you're dealing life or death and you're jumping patient to patient and you're like, you got to be on, you know?
Mhm.
So, it sometimes, yeah, I think can be hard because the highs are so high. I know for a lot of my patients, like I've had clients that say like, I worked in the AR for 8 years and I can't work anywhere else because it's not like I'm like an adrenaline
Mhm.
junkie now. They're like, I
Yeah.
love it. It's great. Like I think that reminds me too
Mhm.
of some clients moving from days to nights, and the nights are just a little quieter. And
Right.
you know, they're like, I need more action, because we almost
Mhm.
get addicted to the high, the
True.
stimulation. I know. Look, one
Mhm.
of the best things that I've done recently is I've taken my YouTube consumption, which would probably like again, it was very, just media consumption in general from 2 hours a day down to zero or point one, like 10 minutes, whatever. Uh,
Mhm.
that's been so powerful for me. Just sitting down with my thoughts and allowing my mental inbox to get to zero. Right.
Mhm. Yep.
So powerful, man.
It
But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, let's talk about revenge procrastination because
Oh
I don't know what
my.
the heck that is. Okay. So I have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm familiar. We talked about it a little bit, and I can actually identify a little bit with it.
Mhm.
But tell me about what you've learned so far about revenge
The
procrastination.
very limited experience or knowledge that I have about this. What I understand is it's like making it where you don't go to sleep because you're punishing yourself for not getting stuff done during the day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So an example of that is like, or yeah, well, I guess that's the example. Is I was thinking of not a client, a friend of mine. His name's Abe. He actually helped me build my first gym. He's an amazing guy. Love him to death. In case you guys ever see him, tell him. But I talked to him yesterday, so he knows. Um, One of the few people I always end my calls with. That's something I've done recently too. Is like, even like family, but also friends. Like I make sure I tell them I love them as I
Mm.
get off calls, which even for like men can be like a stigma. Like, you love me with some weak stuff, but like all my
Aw.
friends are very receptive to it.
Oh.
I feel like it's like, you gotta, especially with family, but like with friends too. Like if you appreciate someone, let them know. Like what a tragedy to have somebody, eventually pass on unexpectedly or whatever it is
Mhm.
without them knowing how much you truly appreciate them. Because
Mhm.
not only does it make them feel amazing, even if you don't get it necessarily back immediately, but it makes
Right.
you feel amazing.
Yeah, you
Right.
can't help but get a little love on yourself. Right.
Yeah. It's like that's like, wow, that's a really good one. It's like you give, but you almost like get
Which is
some in the passing. That's a good point.
to be loving, you have to get or like to have love given, you have to give. It's a beautiful cycle and it's amazing. Yep, you get some on yourself every time.
I love that. That's so funny. Uh, so have you ever dealt with revenge procrastination?
Well,
Like
I
in
didn't have a
your life?
name for it, but I don't fight sleep. I don't know, but I understand
Right.
like the idea that you're just like, oh, if you're not going to do this, then I'm just going to keep you up at night. But I just feel like that they also are aware when they're engaging in this, some of them, that it's going to affect, that has consequences. Like the next day, they're not going to get up early like they wanted to work out, or they're just not going to feel as good. But I also wonder if it's because they think maybe if they had a really hard day, they deserve to watch an extra 4 hours of television. I don't know if it's that too. Maybe there's some of that.
That that like rings true, I
Yeah.
think, to me a little bit. Like on
Mhm.
this same vein, I will say the thing I really can identify with the most recently in my life, uh, even just a few years back, is when I would have leisure time, I would overstimulate. So what I mean by that is like I would play a video game while I'm
Mhm.
watching YouTube at the
Mhm.
same time, and I'm listening to like I don't know, just whatever. So I'm
Yep.
getting hit. I'm getting hit by like two or three different things. 3 to 4 hours would go by,
Yep.
and it's time for bed, and I'd be like,
You're
oh my
so
god, like I need a break. It's like I felt like I needed, like I was exhausted, and not even exhausted, but I was like, it's almost like that didn't feel good enough,
Mhm.
as a break. It was interesting. Where now, fast forward all the way, Hey, this is monotasking. Full circle, baby! Oh my god! Ah, that's perfect. So now I do one thing at a time. And it's like I get so much more out of just doing that one thing.
Yeah.
Like I think it's I don't know if it's Buddhism, but there's one philosophy out there, religious philosophy, whatever, that talks a lot about monotasking as well. And I'm even thinking all the way back, it just popped in my head, like one of my first clients, Chris P, who amazing guy. He was a teacher. He moved to Vermont, I believe, shortly, like maybe 3 or 6 months after we started working together. Anyway, this is back when I was 18. But I remember he was one of the first people to say to me, you know, I think it was his therapist that said it at the time, was recommending to deal with, you know, heightened stress and anxiety to just monotask. So like when you are, I think the examples he gave was when you're driving, just drive.
Right.
No radio, no other stimulation. When you're driving, just drive, which is something I do and it's been great. Here's a fun one. When you go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. Like, don't bring your phone. There's no need, right? Like, you'll be fine. And I know this is probably TMI, but like when I started doing that, I was like an addict. Like, I remember, like, I couldn't go to the bathroom because I couldn't find my phone. It's so embarrassing. But like, I'm like, I really got to go to the bathroom, but I'm like looking for my phone. I'm like, I need something, right? And it was like an addictive almost behavior.
So funny because I think that's a based on your generation thing too. So I even saw a meme that it's like, we remember going to the bathroom without our phones, which it just cracks me up because I never would have thought to bring my phone in the bathroom, just like I don't think to bring snacks in my bed. But some people do this, and it's so
in the bathroom.
I know certain things I didn't know this until I start talking to other people, and I'm like, oh, this is a thing. So yes, don't do it. Leave it down.
I am curious if anyone here, I don't know, can identify with any of this, like the monotasking, the revenge procrastination. And does anyone have anything to add in the comments or a question? Or I'd be interested to know. So yeah, very, very interesting. Revenge procrastination. Was there any other thoughts on that or any other things you learned when you were looking at it?
I think one of the examples they used was they said that the only time that they would act like after hours and stuff when they should be going to bed, they felt like watching TV was giving them this unstructured relaxation, which I could kind of maybe more, it sounds like it's a numbing. So I think it's always the self-care activities we choose to engage in. Of course, with anything you do it too much, it can be addictive or have the opposite effect of what you want. So I think with the monotasking, just being mindful about why you're doing this and how you want to feel.
Yeah, almost being more of an architect of your day, architect of your, you know, your day, which leads to being an architect of your week, an architect of your month, an architect of your year, an architect of your decades, and then an architect of your life.
I would say with awareness, when it comes to that piece too, please keep in mind, like the sidebar is also to have non-judgment, because it's the more you know, sometimes the more you want to judge yourself for these activities and behaviors. And it's just be like, hey, you know what? Last night I watched 3 hours of TV. I didn't really feel great. Let's try something different tonight and adjust accordingly.
Right. Yeah, let's
so back to grace.
Yeah, everything you feel is a signal. Like I'm a big believer of that. If like awareness, if we can just the first step to, of course, anything is you have to know what's happening. So it's like have the awareness, but then interpret it. Like, look, it's a signal. It's not good or bad. It just is. But what can you do? What can you do with that information? You know, imagine, you know, you got Google, Facebook taking in all this information. Imagine if they weren't using your data. Well, then there's no need to collect it. Right. So it's like, I know that's kind of a weird example, but kind of similar here. It's like you're getting all this data, use it, you know, use it to make your life better, which is great. There was something else I was going to mention, but I can't remember what it was now. Revenge, procrastination. I don't know. I can't remember.
Because you've had too many things going.
No, I know, too many tests. Well, this is what happens. So like, this is what happens when I take caffeine and I work out in the morning. I get like so jazzed up and then I'm like, yeah. We did have a comment come in. Maybe it'll jog some memory. Let me just refresh the page so I can see who said it. Amy says, I can relate to the revenge procrastination some nights, but also want a snack and Netflix numbing. Any tips when this occurs? Amy, welcome to the group. New member. Let's go. Yeah, what's your thought there, Charity?
That's Amy that we're talking about. That's the same Amy, I bet.
It's the same Amy!
I'm pretty sure. So very fun. As far as I know, some people, it helps to have a list like in their cabinet or on their fridge of some other activities that they could do. or asking, do you need to sit down? Do you need a hug? Do you need to talk to someone? I think it helps to have the list already made prior to these times that you find yourself in. So you don't really have to think and get creative when you're just in this place of wanting to try something else. And then also know that sometimes you might try one thing and it might work for you. And then maybe the next night you have to try something different.
I think it's important to note too how you feel after the Netflix, because sometimes
Right.
it's not even numbing per se,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like entertaining behaviors are like behaviors that lead to entertainment and relaxation aren't necessarily numbing or bad.
Mm-hmm. Not always, right?
Um, but just acknowledge how you feel after. If
Mm-hmm.
you stop watching and you're like, I don't feel good, it
Mm-hmm.
was numbing.
Right.
It was like you were avoiding something. We got
Mm-hmm.
to figure out what that baby is, or we're not going to be able to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the things that uh, just a change of prioritization for me. One of the most, which I know this sounds really funny to say, my number one priority in my life is sleep. Now, don't get me wrong. If one of my family members wake up at 2 a.m. needing to go to the hospital, I'm not going to be like, I still got another 5 hours, baby. Like, that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
Right? What I am saying, like, forget emergencies.
Mm-hmm.
Big picture, sleep is the most important thing to me. Why?
Mm-hmm.
It's the foundation. When I
Mm-hmm.
sleep, everything feels amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything feels possible. I say everything feels amazing, but things feel possible. When I don't sleep, everything's miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I say that is because potentially before putting on Netflix, maybe you just sit for 5 minutes. Maybe that's like your ritual is. I know this is what I started doing before I do any type of entertainment. Netflix, watching Disney movies with my son, video games, whatever. I sit for 5 minutes and I just sit in myself and I see, okay, is there anything unresolved?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, sometimes it's boring as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time at this point, it's very boring. But sometimes I'll think of something and be like, "Oh shit, you know what? I do actually have to, I don't know, get my inspection sticker done on my
Mm-hmm.
car." And then
Mm-hmm.
I just resolve it. I don't just ignore it. I resolve it. I like go to my phone. I say, "Okay, when am I going to do that? Look at my calendar. I'm going to do it tomorrow." And then mentally, I can close that tab.
Yeah.
Cool. And I sit down again and think and oh, Valentine's Day is coming up. What am I doing for that? Like
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, we just sometimes don't even allow these thoughts to occur.
Yeah.
Amy, I don't know if that helps, but let us know. If it doesn't help, let us know too.
Okay.
Tell us we suck in the comments. Like that's fine too.
We can take it.
We can take it.
It's constructive criticism. We're fine.
We'll take it.
That's the
We'll
stuff.
take it on the live, and then we'll get off live, and then we'll be sitting in our thoughts, coping with
Having fun. It's fine.
it. That's funny. Julie says, Julie says, I definitely agree with that. I sleep just as much as my two kids. I feel refreshed in the morning. I mean, yeah, like that's how life is. Like everything feels possible when we sleep, right? There was this guy. Have you guys heard? Or Charity, I'll ask you too, but also asking anyone watching. Have you guys heard of Brian Johnson?
Thanks.
So he's he sold his company at Venmo. You probably heard of Venmo.
Mm-hmm.
So that was his company. He sold it, $700 million or whatever. And for the last 3 years has been trying to reverse aging, but not doing it in like any like genomic crazy or not crazy ways, but genomic ways. He's been doing it in ways of just nutrition, exercise, and sleep.
Like the blue zones?
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah. There was did you see that Netflix
Mm-hmm.
show about the blue zones? Yeah,
Right.
that was a cool one.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about
If you want good
was it
Netflix binging,
Okinawa?
there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. So if you want good Netflix binging, that one, and then My Octopus Teacher is amazing. Sad, but so good.
What was the one? So what was the one? The blue zones. Is that what it's called? The blue zones.
I can look it up. I'm not really sure.
But for those of you maybe who don't know the blue zones, right? I mean, those are going to be all the zones in the world that have the highest amount of, we'll say, health, right? Longest longevity and best health to death. So, like, I think it was Okinawa, Japan.
Mm-hmm.
People are living into their late 90s, hundreds even,
Mm-hmm.
and these are people that are still living their life.
Yes.
Because they're doing all these things like mindfulness, gardening,
Purpose.
whatever, using their body.
Their ikigai, living their purpose. Yeah, it's called Live to
Ikigai. Yeah, the Ikigai. Yeah, I loved that when I heard it.
Live to 100 Secrets of the Blue Zones. So that's what it's called on Netflix. Yep.
Very nice.
Good stuff.
Yeah, Amy says, yes, that helps. Thanks. Woo!
Yay! Glad to be here.
We made the podcast. The podcast is now a success.
Drop. It's just time to go.
We did it. We did it. I mean, that's the goal, right? Whenever we start these, you just want one person to be like, hey, something you said helped. And it wasn't just like, self-gratifying.
Right.
It is self-gratifying, but because I love getting on here and talking. But it's funny. Any other thoughts come to mind with this, Charity?
No, I think we did awesome and learned a new thing and one thing at a time.
We did awesome. That's so funny. I am curious really quick. My octopus teacher, what is that about?
Oh my gosh, it's so good. So I don't want to do spoiler alert, but this octopus only lives 1 to 2 years. So just so you know that kind of going in, but it's so good. This guy went down there in this very cold water and just spent every day with this. And they're so smart. Like they're like aliens living among us. And the things that they can do is just impressive and so amazing. It's so good.
What was your takeaway?
My takeaway, the fragility of life. And then with this one, it's their ability to adapt. And since they only live for a year or two, think about how much is going on and being created in their brains, that they're learning new things on how to change the colors of their body, the textures of it, fit into small places. While there's prey out there that wants to eat them and stuff. And so it's just like, it's amazing, their focus. And then they have joy. Like there's a moment where it's playing with the bubbles and the fish and the water, and it's not hunting them. It's just having a good time. And it's just so gorgeous to watch something so intelligent, still enjoying the simplest of things. That's my
I like that. Enjoying the simple. We had a comment come through as well. I want to see who it's from. Eden. Eden says, welcome to the group, Eden. Good to see you. I'm a 64-year-old retired psych RN. Any advice on what I should be doing health-wise and to be active? Because I'm bored at home just traveling TV, because I'm bored at home just watching TV when I'm not traveling. Charity, do you want to give some? The first thing I would do is ask you more questions,
right?
Before giving any type of advice. So I guess really quick, I'll just say have you done are you doing anything currently? What's your current health status? Are you what are you doing right now? In order to be able to say what's our next step, we first have to establish where we are existing, which is what we do with all of our clients as well. But that's what I would recommend, or that's what I would need to know first, is where are you starting from? Charity, what's some of your thoughts on that?
No, it's 64 and fresh. What are you talking about? There's no old in any of this. Yes.
That's right. Feeling good. You're just starting. I remember hearing a bunch. I think it was Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar when he would ask hey, how old are you? And they would say I'm 68 or I'm 52 or whatever. And he'd be like, oh, you're a spring chick, or whatever, And I always like that,
I'm living my double 21. It's fine. It's fabulous.
I'm living my double 21.
You might still have fun with it. And I guess just in general, what I would answer to that for her is come up with a list of things that you could do instead and try them out.
And so if we're thinking too, because again, this always goes back to sustainability, we can do anything once. The thing we recommend to you that might be the most scientifically, have the most scientific efficacy or effectiveness is not the thing that probably you should do. Right? The Brian Johnson guy is doing the most efficacious actions. They're not sustainable. He has a 5-hour routine every day, not including exercise. It's insane. He does a bunch of laser treatment. He does some interesting stuff. Very interesting. But you can take stuff from it. But the thing that I would recommend, to Charity's point, is make a list of the things that you believe would increase your health, because obviously those things, right? What is let's say exercise. What is the exercise? Or it can be any action. It doesn't even need to be exercise. It could be nutrition related, sleep related, mindfulness related, right? Because there's different areas to wellness. It's not just fitness. It's also nutrition, sleep, mindfulness or stress level, self-love, all that stuff, self-esteem, which is also kind of like mindfulness to a degree. Make a list of all those things, and then make 2 numbers next to everything, in my opinion. The first thing is how effective you believe it is on a scale of 1 to 10. And then the next number, rate how much you enjoy it. Because if you have something that's an effectiveness 10 and enjoyment's a 1, your days are numbered. You're not going to do that very long. I'd rather somebody do an effectiveness 6 and it's an enjoyment 9. That's how they're going to do it. So like, kind of think of it like you're plotting, and on the x-axis is how much you enjoy it, and on the y-axis is how effective it is. And then just everything over the I can't remember what that line's called in geometry or plotting or whatever, but anything that's over that line is what you go do, because it has the highest likelihood of being sustainable.
Right. What brings you joy? And because humans always go towards pleasure and away from pain.
100%. That is a core part of our philosophy in our program.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, even just my whole life. You know, it's funny. I was talking to my wife before we went to bed the other night. And I think one of the questions that we were talking about was, what is the one thing, because we have these little cards that we ask each other when we want to connect sometimes, and we don't know what to talk about. And one of the questions was, what is the one thing you want to leave with your child, type of thing, before you die, type of thing. Like, what's the one thing you want them to learn? And of course, my answer was, there isn't one thing. But I think it starts, and I think this goes in the same vein of this conversation. It's to first learn about the hardware of the human brain, because let's be real, you're in control, right? Obviously, you have a reasoning center, you have free will, but there are certain things about your brain you're not going to change. You're not. Like, for example, if something right now makes a really loud noise, I'm going to get scared, right? Or like something hits me in the face, I can't not flinch. That's a part of my brain in my autonomic nervous system I will not turn off. Now, if we can learn about the hardware in our body, right? How we digest food, or just even how, just like the basics of the hardware, physically and then mentally with the psychology, how humans work. And one of the main philosophies of that is like, people will always move away from pain and go towards pleasure. If we can know that, then we can leverage the software, and the software is the stuff you can change. That's your thinking pattern. Right? Because like, because we're not just products of our environment, although it plays a huge role. Why? Because our environment controls our input in a lot of cases, especially when we're young. Our input controls our thinking. Our thinking creates a loop. And then the thinking leads to actions that lead to results, and it just keeps going. This is why people believe you can't teach old dogs new tricks, because yes, it's really hard to, because they're conditioned. Their thinking loop is so reinforced that it takes a long time to break in some cases, or a lot of input. Not a long time, but a lot of input. You can do it relatively quickly. It just takes a lot of input, and you have to get rid of the other stuff. But that was the one thing I was talking about with my wife. I'm like, I would want him to be able to know that, and then start to master each area of life above it, where it's like learning, your physical body, how to, get that, because that's the vessel, right? If you can get your physical body right, it's so much easier to get your mental space right, in my opinion, to then get your relationships great. It's like, it's really hard to make in my opinion, our relationships great. Like, how do we make other people feel good unless we feel good? You know what I'm saying? It's like, how do we become interconnected unless I'm trying to think of the way to describe it. Can you describe it better than I am?
I'm just thinking, when I'm thinking what I want to leave with my children, I want them to be them. I want them to be like fully Evan. So when they come, and I think this applies to what you're talking about, when you enter into a relationship with any kind of human, the more you know about yourself, the more you're going to be better at setting boundaries, healthy boundaries, as well as being in full acceptance of who they are, because you're not competing to be like them, or, and then there's no judgment between the two of you, because you just respect each other, because you're both humans, and hopefully you're both loving. And then it's just a beautiful thing to unfold and watch.
It's good stuff. Yeah, it's good. I love it. I just looked at the time. We've been talking for 40 minutes. We should probably end this. Good times. Eden says, I go to the gym, lift weights, but my lower back can't handle it anymore. Keep hurting my back. So Eden, my recommendation there is change what you're doing. So if you're hurting your back, if we like break that down to first principles, the reason your back is hurting is it's just a mechanical issue. Now, mechanical issues you can fix two ways. The first way is by strengthening the core. The second is by changing the position. Here's what I mean. Theoretically, if you have a super strong core, it does not matter. Oh man, should I iron this? It does not matter what position you get into. You can lift load in any position. And this is like useful for nurses. Why? Well, because you're grabbing patients like this sometimes, you know? But essentially strong core. The second thing is learning body mechanics to where they're natural. When you pick something up, we never pick it up in this position. This is terrible, right? We always want to make sure we're hinging at the hip, core is tight. Even if you want to really get good mechanics, suck your air in, right? Suck the air into the belly, not the lungs. Suck the air into the belly. Then brace, and you'll create more intra-abdominal pressure, which will protect your back and reduce the risk of injury, which is great if you're a power lifter or just lifting heavy things. But other than that, in my opinion, stop doing everything else. So one, listen to the signal. If you do anything that gives you back pain, don't do it. Number two, because it's either something structurally needs to be fixed or it's mechanical that needs to be fixed. And then don't go back to it until it feels better by testing, but just strengthen your core. So all the weird stuff like that you don't feel like you're really getting a good sweat and stuff. So like planks, side planks, bird dogs, back extensions, maybe not back extensions because your back's probably fried trying to protect your spine. Because that's essentially what happens, right? Your low back hurts because it's trying to protect your spine, right? We're thinking about turning it on, but it's overworked and your core muscles aren't firing, right? If you look at well, we won't dive into this, but the point is strengthen your core, you'll be feeling better. We did get some comments that came in really quick. Let me just look at that really quick.
And there's a little massage for your lower back if you get on the floor and lay down and pull your knees into your chest, or you can be on your bed and just do little circles with your knees. It gives your lower back a little massage. Just make sure you do both directions.
Yeah, you might need if the bed, depending on how comfy your bed is, you might need to be on the floor. But we'll see. Maybe carpet before the hardwood. All right. Karen says, how do I overcome the rebound weight gain after a 3-year chronic stress situation? Caregiver for my dad with Alzheimer's. So hard to lose weight as I get older. The first thing I would ask is, when you say, how do I overcome it? Are you talking about how to overcome it physically? Like, what are the mechanics? Or how do I overcome that mentally because I feel like a failure because I let myself go? Because if it's that part, the first thing we need to do is forgive yourself. The first thing you need to do is stop, berating, which I'm not saying you're doing this, but just talking from experience, we feel the guilt of oh God, and that's draining our energy because all we're doing is we're driving our car of life, looking in the rear view mirror saying, oh God, that shouldn't have happened. Well, we got to keep our eyes on the road, baby. So it's shift our thinking, our focus to, hey, that happened. Get at peace with it. And you can do that really simply just by, essentially, I'm assuming you're not now being a caregiver for your dad, but you may still be, but I'm assuming you're not anymore. Maybe your dad passed or whatever it might be, in which case you did a great service to your father, right? By taking care of him. And now that chapter is closed and now you can focus on yourself and the best is yet to come. Right. A lot of life, in my opinion, in the direction we go in really comes down to the belief of the individual and the, psychology, right? If somebody believes that the best is yet to come, they will find reasons to back that up and move in that direction. Whereas if we believe that the past, the glory days are over and God, it's only going to get worse from here, your actions will probably lead to that reality.
Isn't that what your brain is? You tell it something, all I see is yellow cars. It'll make that happen. So if you tell yourself this is easy, it'll make that happen. So make it work for you. I guess kind of make it.
Yeah, there's a really fun activity to do with that too. And it's so I believe there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system, I think it is. And pretty much what it does is it stops your brain from focusing on all the small details or you just go insane. So what you can do, it's kind of funny. You can, to that point, you can look around your room. What you search for is what you find, and you look for all the things that are blue. And you look for blue. You look for blue. You're searching blue. And you can even do this in your room right now. Look for blue. Yeah, there's blue on here on my computer. There's blue in the little Facebook logo. What else? Blue. That's kind of like a blue right there. I mean, it's kind of blue. I mean, it's kind of like an off blue. Okay, close your eyes. Tell me all the things that were red.
Right,
you're like, shit. You're like, oh God, I don't know. Where is it? And then you open your eyes and look around. Oh man, just red right there in the live logo. There's red in the Slack icon. This is kind of red down there, even though it's kind of orange. There's and the point is we find what we look for.
Yep.
So, that's why you can go to a party and, two people going to the same party can have wildly different experiences because one of the person is like focused on the mosh pit and they're like, man, this party's jumping. Everyone's like having a good time, jamming. And then on the other side, you could be looking at the couple in the corner fighting and the woman slaps him in the face because he finds out he's been cheating on her, right? And you're like, oh God, these people are insane, right? So it's like same party, different experience. What you focus on is what you feel. Yeah. It's good stuff. Karen says you hit it perfectly. I need to do both. Beautiful. Well, if you need any help, feel free to let us know or just drop a comment. We'll keep talking. Good stuff. Yeah. It's a lot of what stops us are just mental pieces, right? It's like sometimes, and this is, it's not all the time, but I've had, in Charity, I think you can probably attest to this too. I've had clients of mine where really the most beneficial thing that we did with them for like 12 or 24 weeks was in the beginning where we removed mental blocks. Because it's the mental blocks sometimes that stop us from taking action. So when you solve the mental blocks, whatever they might be, and I'm not saying that everyone has mental blocks because it's not true. Sometimes it's a mechanical issue or there's other things going on. And you just need to guess and or test and iterate strategy along the way. But when you do remove resistance, I can tell you it gets a lot easier to move, right? If you are relying on willpower to accomplish anything, don't. No, it's not going to last. You have to essentially map. I don't want to say map. You have to set things up where they're low pain, high pleasure. You create positive feedback loops and even change belief systems, which take time, so that you can be pulled towards actions. That's how you win. Discipline's a lie. Straight up. I've been working out for 18 years. I've essentially never missed a day unless I was sick. I'm addicted, I guess you could say. Because like they say an addiction is when you do an action that takes, more effort to stop the action than it does to just go do it. I'm addicted.
Yay.
I mean, it's just so, yay, you're addicted. Hooray, hurrah. But it's like, how do you get to that point? I believe addictions are just actions that achieve 3 or more of your human needs simultaneously.
Right.
So like for me, when I go to the gym, I feel certain. Why? Because I'm certain that I'm going to feel good. Now, granted, it's taken me time to get there. I'm certain that I'm going to feel significant. Why? Because when I look in the mirror, I'm like, dang, I kind of like what I see there. Because now I have a home gym, so I work out shirtless. I'll be doing my live shirtless.
Nothing like that for motivation.
Yeah, right. And pantless. I'm just naked. I'm in the mood. Right? I keep the windows wide open. I open the garage door. I'm like, hey. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I think we just got to be pulled. We got to set up a system so that we feel pulled. And like this goes in the same vein. It all interconnects. But like I was talking to Coach Rachel about last week with TOAC. And that's like a simple 4-step system to be able to make habits start to stick, which is crucial. So anyway, we've been talking for a bit. Gloria says hello, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
We will see you guys next week. And tomorrow we'll be talking with Coach Rachel about probably something habit related, as she is the habit master, as well as a myriad of other things too. So, all right. See you guys. If you did watch this and you liked it, comment, like, subscribe. Just kidding. This isn't YouTube. Share it with a friend, maybe, if you feel like it would help them. And we're on the mission, man. It's the boring mission, just one step at a time, right? But at the same time, we're making great progress. Our goal is to impact 100,000 RNs and healthcare workers, transform their bodies, and sustain it forever. And in this group, we've just passed 7,700 RNs. Let's go.
Keep going. Keep being amazing.
And if coaching with Coach Charity or any of our coaches interest you, I'll put a link somewhere that you can apply to work with us. Bye.
Bye.